Chapter 2. As Becca struggled to stay awake during her morning classes, the whispers floated in the air around her. Her parents, last night. I heard Becca Dalcourt made them let her go. You know what her mother is, don't you? Becca tried to block out the whispers in the stairs. She looked for Heather in the halls but didn't see her. How was Heather handling this? Heather, who had come to Becca in tears last week after someone had started a rumor about her cheating on a geometry test. When she walked into the cafeteria, everyone's head swiveled toward her. The room's constant roar of conversation dropped to a murmur. She thought she heard her name a few times, along with Heather's. The force of all those eyes and all those whispers felt like enough to melt her into the ground, but she wasn't that lucky. She almost turned around right then. She could spend lunch in the library. But the thought of Heather facing this alone made her stay. She scanned Heather's usual table, filled with the school's elite. Heather wasn't there. Maybe she had skipped school. Or maybe... Becca's chest tightened. Enforcement had gone back for her. But no, there she was, by herself at a table in the corner, hunched miserably over her lunch tray. Becca had already played a major part in a lot of the stories making their way around the school this morning. If she sat at Heather's table, she would practically be announcing herself as a dissident, and her mom had told her not to spend time with Heather. It only took her a second to decide. She crossed the room and set her lunch bag down beside Heather's tray. To the people who didn't know her, Heather probably looked as polished as ever, but Becca took in the wrinkles in her shirt, her hastily brushed hair, the dark circles under her eyes. Heather gave Becca a tired smile that dissolved halfway through into a near sob. She turned her head away and poked at the congealed turkey on her tray. Thanks for sitting with me. I went to 117 for you. You think I'd abandon you now? This is nothing. She slid into the chair next to Heather. Besides, it's not like I believe any of the stuff they're saying. You're not a dissident. She wasn't. No matter what Becca's mom said, her mom didn't know Heather like she did. And anyway, her job was bound to make her paranoid about that kind of thing. Heather made a strangled noise at the last word. She swiped her hand across her eyes, but not before Becca saw the tear that had started running down her cheek. The last time Heather had cried in the cafeteria was when her boyfriend of 6 weeks had dumped her for some freshman. Becca had sat picking at her lunch, separated from Heather by the backs of everyone who wanted to win points with her by offering her a tissue at just the right time, or coming up with the perfect insult for the boy in question. That night Heather had slept over, and she and Becca had stayed up all night talking and ceremoniously tearing up Heather's few pictures of him. The next day, Heather had been her usual self again, eyes sparkling as she painted her nails candy pink and wondered aloud how long it would be before her ex realized what he was missing. Becca wished she could believe it would be that easy this time. She glanced over at their usual table. At least sitting in exile with Heather meant she didn't have to sit at that table and endure another lunch period of subtle snubs from Heather's friends. A rush of shame followed on the heels of that thought. Heather had lost everything, and this was what Becca thought about? As soon as Becca looked at them, Heather's friends, probably ex-friends now, all snapped their heads forward, trying to pretend they had been focusing on their lunches the whole time. Becca hoped they all got whiplash. It wasn't just that table either. Everywhere she looked, eyes darted to her and Heather and then away. A black-haired boy 2 tables away met her eyes when she caught him staring. She couldn't read his intense expression. For a minute, Becca thought he might get up and come over to them, but he stayed where he was, dropping his gaze to his tray. What do you think is happening to them? Becca turned back to Heather. Who? Heather shoved the turkey around some more. My parents. Becca knew all the reassuring things Heather wanted to hear. She couldn't say them. How could she when she knew they weren't true? 2 trays hit the table, saving Becca from having to answer. Anna and Lane slid into the seats across from Becca and Heather. Unlike the rest of Heather's friends, they were Becca's friends too, and they weren't as quick to strike when they smelled blood in the water. Becca should have known they wouldn't turn on the 2 of them like everyone else. Becca shot them a grateful smile, both for saving her and more importantly for braving the cafeteria's hostile eyes to support Heather.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.